Hello and welcome again to this edition of FI TV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are coming to you from inside the FIT studios for FI TV. We are just a few blocks from Florida's capital, and today we are joined by none other than the amazing campaign consultant, Anthony Pedicini. We call it Sim Wins, but the official name is Strategic Image Management.
Yes, sir.
How's the company doing?
We're doing well.
We're
blessed to have some really good clients who are not far from this building right now.
Yeah, state and local races as well, right? Yeah. You've been in the game for a long time. So long that once upon a time, I was terrified that you were even on the other side.
I remember.
So those were the good old days. Dark hair.
I had hair, yes.
Those were good days. So, all right, so let's jump in. Your insights into the campaign trail go well beyond direct mail and that kind of thing. You're always paying attention to the legislative process and what's going to come out of that can impact your clients and impact the races you're engaging in. When we look at this year at the Capitol, redistricting, what's your top line
number one issue
takes on that?
Number one issue. I mean, from a campaign perspective, we can't run campaigns where we don't have maps. And so we're all eagerly waiting for the maps to be finalized. First time ever, a governor has submitted a map for the congressional districts. We'll see how that plays out. That happened yesterday, so there's going to be a lot of impact on that today.
Very surprising, right?
Super surprised.
Right.
I think everybody was. So, but he's a Floridian. He has a right to submit a map. I think Senator Rodriguez said it, and why couldn't he submit a map?
And you got to have a Senate sponsor to submit your map, right? Or does that apply to the governor?
He went on the online portal and he submitted a map like any other citizen could. The only difference that the governor has over every other citizen is he can actually veto the congressional maps. So he submitted a map that he can deny later. It's very interesting.
Right. That is a fascinating wrinkle.
Yes, sir.
As a citizen, he can do that. Yeah. Preemptive moves from members, that can both apply to the maps that they're submitting, but also are they looking to move their current locations so they're going to move into another potential new district? What are you seeing in that world?
Yeah, so the Florida Constitution prohibits drawing lines that favor people in office in the legislature. So they can't draw lines that help their houses. So you have a bunch of members that have been drawn in with each other, which is interesting. And I think that's going to play out after the maps are finalized.
Right.
I think that you have, in the Senate too, you have a bunch of senators that have been drawn in together, and there's a couple Senate districts that have no senators in them. So we probably will have some races we didn't expect to have. Open House seats we didn't expect to have, open Senate seats we didn't have, and then there's going to be a lot of people running for Congress, I have a feeling, which will create even more open seats. But it's Florida, so we're used to having at least 36% of the legislature turn over every year. And I think that's going to happen again.
Yeah, it'll happen again. When you look at your expertise, is it still going to come down to, no matter which way they draw the maps, if you're a Democrat, you're going to be mailing your super voters that are Ds and your independents, and then if you're a Republican, you're going to be mailing and communicating with the super voters. I mean, how does that change the calculus? Is it just as simple as it's a new set of bodies in the district?
No, I think it depends on the district. So, like, for example, there's districts that were leaning D that probably are very R now. And again, the maps aren't final, so I can't give you a specific example. But in one set of maps, I know a member that had a D10 seat that now is in a an R10 seat that now has an R1 seat. So, yeah, he's going to have to target different people than he used to.
It's going to be a total change.
Change in his messaging, everything. And he's going to have to reach out to independents. It's not a sure thing come November.
Right. How do candidates manage, let's say you've got an ultra partisan, candidate, and they typically run to their mega base, if you will. But then you change from, let's say it's a R plus 10 and now it's an R plus 1, and let's pretend it's Gruder's district. Traditionally you can run very what's the word I'm looking for? Partisan messaging, and now suddenly you tailor it back. How do you hold to your core convictions? Or what do you advise your clients to do on their core convictions? We
talk about education and water and environment and fluffy things and unicorns and rainbows, and we talk to independents. I mean, you don't have to talk to your base anymore.
Okay.
It's the difference between running a primary and then running a general. And so just because we run a primary and we go to the right to win the primary doesn't mean we can't come back to the middle of the general. And I think a lot of these members who find themselves in more purple seats than they were in will have to do that. They'll have to pivot back to the middle.
So biggest impact of redistricting on the election
is the congressional map by far. Okay. That extra congressional seat will change everything. The fact that the Senate maps, if you look at the Senate maps and compare them, it's a totally new world in the state Senate. The House maps have changed, but Really, I think the biggest impact is going to be the congressional
So
map.
we're grabbing one more seat. Florida gets one more.
Don't know yet.
Congressional.
Well, we
member.
definitely get one more member, yes, but we don't know.
But where?
We don't know where.
We don't know where. Okay. All right. I mean,
you talk to the Senate, it's one place. You talk to the governor, it's another place. You talk to the House, it's another place. So it just depends.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, your work's cut out for you.
A lot of time on the clock. I have nothing to do with it. It's a cutout for them.
Not on the mapping. I'm saying once the mapping's done, then you got to go do your homework and figure out how to market a message. Okay. Let's talk about the governor's race. Top Democratic candidates that you think. Who do you think is going to emerge as the number one?
Charlie Crist.
You think Charlie's going to?
Charlie runs away with it.
By far, are the numbers showing that and the polls showing that now?
Yes.
Or is this Pedicini intuition?
No. I think the numbers are starting to show it. I think Annette Taddeo destroys any chance Nikki Fried has of becoming the nominee. There's a rumor that that was plotted out between Charlie and Annette Taddeo, but who can prove that?
Well, she was his running mate, right?
It would make sense. It would make sense, and it would only be proven if Charlie becomes a nominee and then picks her as his running mate again. So we'll see if that happens. But I think it's going to be Charlie versus Ron DeSantis. Yeah. And I think Ron DeSantis does something that no Republican governor has done, and I think he wins by more than 3.5 points.
Really?
Yeah.
So what? I mean, is it Governor DeSantis's COVID response that is so divergent from other states and other leadership postures? I mean, what do you think ultimately will be DeSantis's nail in, if it is Charlie Crist's coffin?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that the way he ran the state. Election coffin. That's right. The way he ran the state, in contrast with the way the federal government is doing business, I think is a stark contrast. Right. So, Thanksgiving came. You were limited to 2 turkeys at Publix. This is the greatest, strongest, richest country in the world. We're rationing food now. There are some Targets that don't have things on the shelves. And Democrats argue with me on Twitter that that's not true, but there's tons of pictures from everywhere in the state. Montana had no food during Christmas. These are huge problems nationally. We don't have these huge problems in Florida particularly because the way the state is growing, we didn't lock down the economy. We let the economy do its thing. We gave people the choice to wear masks. We gave people the choice to stay home. We gave people the choice to do what they wanted to do in relation to their health, whether they wanted the shot or not. Whether you agree with that or not, there's something fundamental about choice that's American that I think is resonating with people, with the governor. And I think that's what gives him the edge. Yeah,
so that's, I mean, I think even pundits and pollsters and election folks on the left quietly, at one of the governor's clubs or something like that, would concede that he is a force on all metrics to be reckoned with. But Charlie's the people's governor. And
he was the people's governor.
He was the people's governor.
Now he's the Democrats' congressman from Pinellas.
Right. So, but when you look at the numbers on registration, having been a former Florida Chamber guy, right, we always used to talk about how the Democrats out-registered the Republicans forever, and now that is zero.
That game is over.
That's over.
We actually have a registration advantage as Republicans. And so think about it in these terms, Brad. You have for years we had Republican governors eking it out by 1% or 1.5%. And we had a registration deficit
of 400,000.
Now we're going to have a registration advantage of probably the same number almost by the time the election is here. And you don't think we're going to be able to increase our margin? We are better funded than the Democrats. We are better messaged than the Democrats. We have better pollsters. We have better mail. We have better TV. There is no metric in a campaign in Florida that you can't say the Republican industrial complex for campaigns is better than the Democrats. And that will give the governor and Ashley Moody and Jimmy Petronas and anyone else running a huge edge. The other thing I think that's important to mention in relation to the governor's race, this probably will be the first governor that has an enormous set of coattails. So when you look down ballot.
Yeah, I was going to say the congressional races usually are the coattail kind of races, or presidential, obviously, but they typically, it does not apply to governor's races.
No, Ron DeSantis is going to have coattails, and if you're in a D1 seat or a D4 seat and you're a Republican that is doing the right things, talking to the right people, walking the right doors, the governor is going to pull you up those 4 points or more.
Wow, I mean that's.
I mean, as of today, it could change. Florida's a very changing place.
It's big because I think when you look at trends that don't hold, and I mean, sacred cows, if you will.
Yep.
I mean, a governor doesn't have coattails was a sacred cow forever, for the entire time I've been in the business. And you look at presidential coattails. Oh, there's always going to be coattails. It happened with Obama. It happened with Trump. And you would see that. But you typically you hope for it if you're a Republican and you hope Jeb's got coattails, or the predecessors before Jeb that were Democrats, you hoped for coattails.
Jeb had some. That's true. Actually, in like 2002, we had some updraft, but. Usually you're right, it's the federal. This time I think we get a great updraft with Ron DeSantis, and we're thankful for it.
And let's play it out. So there's recently been, shall we say, antagonistic communications coming out of the DeSantis and the Trump camp, potentially. If DeSantis runs and Trump decides not to, do you see this election, because we know Florida's completely changed, right? Yeah. It used to be so Florida goes, so goes the nation. But do you think DeSantis, if Trump doesn't run, has the best image in the country to pull off the presidency? As of today?
Today, yeah, I do. I really do. I think that the former president has maybe overplayed his hand by attacking a very popular governor in the state where he lives. But that'll all work itself out. We're Republicans. We're used to sparring a little bit, and then after the primary, it's kumbaya.
Right.
So let these guys duke it out. They're both titans where they stand, and we're all going to watch and see how it plays out. There's nothing you or I can do about it. Right. And it's just going to be a fun thing to watch.
When you look at the Democrats in the Senate and the House, in your mind, who do you see as the strongest, up and coming contender to maybe move to one of those congressional seats? Or
Sure. I mean, I think in the Senate you have Lauren Book and Jason Pizzo, who have proven that they're extremely politically
savvy.
Savvy beyond anything that we would want as opponents as Republicans. I think in the House, Chris Sprouse, what is he going to do? The guy's smart. He's definitely savvy.
Sure.
His leadership team is very savvy. Mike Grant's savvy. Ben Albritton's moving up the chain. You've got talent on both sides of the coin. And for the Democrats in the House, I think it's less so. If you can matriculate to the Senate as a Democrat, I think there's something that happens to you that you've demonstrated a level of, you've survived the Hunger Games of the House. And now you get to actually kind of spread your wings a little bit and be a real politician in Florida. I don't think that can happen in the House. I think it only can happen in the Senate.
I mean, I think the civility of the environment.
Correct.
I think temperatures cool down, and we hear that from both sides.
It's not full of vitriol, the Senate.
Right. Yeah. All right, so we've got just a little bit of time left. When you have to look at the most important thing on the planet, which we know is the Tampa Bay Lightning,
sure.
How do you think they fare in this year's season?
I think we're three-peating.
Okay.
I mean, look at it. I think as of yesterday, we're still the number one team in the league.
Right.
And we've had COVID hit us. We've had injuries. I think we're the number one team in the league. Do
we see Pedicini and Bluebeards soon?
If we do a fundraiser for kids with cancer, yes. If we don't, no.
Okay. All right. Well, beard or not, Bluebeard or not, we love having you on the show. We appreciate your insights. Thanks for
having me.
Appreciate it. That's all the time we have for this episode of Phi TV. Make sure you hit us up for more great interviews like this one on our social media feeds. And for now, thanks for tuning in.